Hi students, and welcome to the second resource support workshop for customer experience. In this session, we'll be taking you through two learning activities in the first subject out of this double unit, customer experience, which is manage quality customer service. So we're actually completing the learning activities today for this part of customer experience, which is manage quality customer service. Today's workshop, we're going to be looking at two of the learning activities, which I'll highlight for you right now. Ensure delivery of quality products and service, and monitor, adjust, and review customer service. So this is the second of four resource support workshops. The third resource support workshop will look at the next two learning activities in managed sales and service. The fourth one will look at the last two, and then we'll actually have an assessment support workshop, which will look at all of the assessments in this, which we call a double unit, the customer experience, which is a double. It includes the two subjects, managing quality customer service and managed sales and service delivery, which is why we're running extra sessions for this one. Joining me in today's session is the lovely Alyssa Katana, who joined us for the last one. Hi Alyssa, welcome. How are you doing?
Oh, I am doing well. Thanks for having me back, Adam. I really enjoyed last week's session and looking forward to, the next phase in the customer service process. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. I really enjoyed the conversation that we had last week as well. And just to recap on the conversations, we talked last week about all the materials in that first learning activity planned to meet internal and external customer requirements. But what we were really talking about, we went right back to the start and started talking about a service vision. And we talked about the idea of a vision statement and why it's important to have an engaging vision. We started talking about the ways to make your organization inclusive well, not inclusive, but to create what we call a customer centricity within your organization, which is really about building your processes around the needs of what your customers, around your customer needs, and really gearing the whole business towards the end user, which is our customer. We know the customer is our lifeblood of our business. Without customers, we don't have a business. We can't employ employees. We can't run marketing campaigns. We can't really do anything. So we need customers. They keep us alive. And then we talked a little bit about, we started talking about touch points and understanding the journey that a customer might go on with our organization. So that was last week's session. And as mentioned, sorry, go for it.
Yeah, we did finish off with that really interesting article again, that you were kind of reviewing with regards to, it was Apple, wasn't it? And their touch points.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously that was a really interesting, an interesting conversation, but some interesting strategies and ideas around, that concept of touch point and customer service from Apple. So I really do encourage the students to really, have a look at that really nice practical application of that touch point idea, which was really interesting.
The takeout for me on all of that really is that every time that there's a touch point, so every time there's a connection between brand and consumer, every time that connection happens, it's actually an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be wowed, but it's also an opportunity to be disappointed too. So we, as human beings, can tend to be kind of judgmental and critical at times. So whenever somebody, a brand, big corporations give us an opportunity to say, oh, they were horrible, we're going to take it. Let's be honest. So I guess, that takeout for those touch points is understanding every time that there's that engagement, you've got to get it right. You've got to understand the journey that the customer's going through. You've got to understand their experience, which I guess is why all of these conversations come back to the topic customer experience, because it's really about understanding that experience that customer might go through. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the customer is, every time the customer does set foot into your venue or into your organisation or has that touch point, they are looking for that experience, something that is unique for them and something that will engage them and hold them and keep them there. So, that word experience, I think, is definitely key, something that is unique to your organisation that they can't get anywhere else.
That's a really interesting point that you've raised, and I think that's what can actually set organizations apart. We live in an age of service, as it's known. We've come through this industrial age. We're now in this age of service. People want things now. They want things fast. They want it with a smile. You've got to find a way to stand above the crowd, so to speak. So you've got to find a point of difference. But generally, listening to our customers is the way to really start and to do that. So, was a good chat last
Good.
week. So let's pick up from there. We're looking at
Oh,
the
good.
first learning activity now, which is ensure delivery of quality products and services. So we're going to look at a couple of things. We'll just have a general conversation about various different things. We'll try and answer these questions as we go along the way. So I'm actually going to I'll read out the very first question. And that first question is explain how you deliver a product or service that matches your customer needs, and how does your organization determine the customer wants, needs, or motivations to buy? Uh, it's quite a loaded question. And if we actually have a look at the question number 4, so I might actually wrap these up into the same conversation. This question 4 says, give 2 examples of how you determine the rational needs of your customer and 2 examples of how their emotional needs are fulfilled. So there's a couple of things happening here. We're talking about, in the first question, customer wants and needs and motivations. And in question 4, we're talking about the rational needs and the emotional needs. So what's going on here? There's a lot of words, but not a whole lot of sense. So what we're actually talking about is a needs versus a wants. And when we talk about rational needs in question 4, we are just generally talking about a need. And when we're talking about an emotional need, we're actually talking about a want. And so, put simply, a need or a rational need is a thing that you can't live without. So it might be to pay your utility bills. It might be, some basic clothing, jeans, clothes, whatever it might be. It could also be food. There's a rational need, we have a need, we need food to live. Food is a need. However, there is a difference between those survival needs or things that we really need and things that ultimately we want, which we're also categorizing as emotional needs, which are wants. So wants are defined as things that would be nice to have but are not vital for your survival. So for an example, it might be going to the movies. You know what? Love going to the movies. It's not there for my survival. It's not really a rational need. It's more of an emotional want. I really want to go, and you know what? I want to sit there and eat popcorn and spend $15 on a bucket of popcorn and a cola. Probably more the emotional needs being grabbed at there rather than the rational needs. So another way of looking at it is, you know, rational needs are from the head, and an emotional benefit or need is from the heart. Um, so there's a question there that actually asks students, how does your organization determine the difference between wants and needs? That's kind of not a straightforward question to answer directly. In my opinion, it's really about understanding your product and what it is that people get out of your product. What I might do is actually talk a little bit before I go through a couple of ideas there for that particular question. I wouldn't mind talking a little bit about the idea of what I call features versus benefits, which is again another version thereof. All marketers, well, let me just explain. So features, when I say features versus benefits, it's very similar to what we're talking about here, needs versus wants. So features versus benefits. Features are defined as service statements about your product, such as what it can do. It might be the feature of it might be its dimensions, its specifications, and so on. Benefits, by definition, actually show the end result of what a product can actually accomplish. Why am I talking about features versus benefits? It is widely known and widely understood by marketers and salesmen worldwide that human beings, people, consumers, us, we buy benefits, we do not buy features. Okay, so we're buying benefits, we're not buying features. And this is a similar connection between this need versus want one thing, but it's slightly different. So I'm going to give you a really great example. Actually, Alyssa, are you still there with me at the moment?
Yeah, yeah, yep,
Great.
definitely.
I've got a couple. I might just put I might just put the hot iron on you on this occasion. Where
Sure.
I'm getting at here, actually, a perfect example of this is the real estate industry. They do this really, really, really well. When they are
Yep.
selling properties, they are selling benefits. They are not selling the features. So here's what I'm going to do. And Alyssa, you're completely unprepared for this. We haven't talked about this before. This is happening
Yep.
on the fly. I'm going to give you some features
Yep.
that might be used to advertise a house, and I want you to think of how does the real estate industry sell this. Now remember, they're selling benefits, and as by definition, benefits are there to show the end result or what the product can actually accomplish. A benefit is actually going to fill someone's wants or their emotional needs. So this is where I'm getting the connection here between benefits and features, and it's really just understanding sort of the difference between features and benefits, and we'll come back to effectively answering this question for you with a couple of options. But I think all of this conversation helps paint the picture. And then next we'll talk you through some other ideas as well. But so here, Alyssa, I'm going to throw a couple of features at you. I want you to
Okay.
think about the real estate industry and consider how does the real estate industry convert these features into benefits, how they sell it.
Hmm.
Okay, are you ready?
I am. It just, yep.
Double carport.
Ooh.
Mm, mm,
So you're selling me a double carport,
mm.
and you want to know what the benefits of the double carport would be?
Correct, correct.
Okay,
We know
cool.
nobody's buying features. People are buying benefits. So how do we sell somebody on their emotional need? People need a house. We know they need a house, but shopping for a house is, there's a million houses I could buy. How am I going to get someone to
Yep.
buy this house? I know as a marketer, somebody that, well, consumers, they buy benefits, not features. So we know we've got all
Yep.
these features in this house. How are we going to convert this into something that's going to tap into that emotional need or that emotional want? Let's make them want this product because we know
Mm.
that's how we're going to sell it.
Well, for us Sydney siders, parking is a rarity. And quite often, I mean, a benefit for me is if I had a double garage space, it would obviously ensure that my vehicle was kept safe and secure and locked away,
Ding, ding, ding.
particularly considering, but, for my little dodgy $22,000 Hyundai i30. But definitely, definitely the benefit there would be, yeah, the safety and the security of my vehicle. Absolutely, I know that parking perhaps can be quite difficult. It's also easy as well. If I know that I've got a car space in my potential home, then I won't have to worry about the stress of actually finding a car space when I get home. It's easier for me to know exactly where I'll park my vehicle.
Okay. You mentioned the word security before. That is the exact connection that the real estate industry do with these. Instead of saying double carport, they'll say secure, security and peace
Mm.
of mind for both of your vehicles. They're selling peace of mind, and that's actually insurance companies. What are they actually selling? They're actually just
Yeah.
selling peace of mind. So you'll see with insurance companies, they try and take you on this emotional, good feeling thing. All right, I'm going to give you another one. 4 bedrooms,
Mm.
feature of a house. What are the benefits? 4 bedrooms.
So, sorry.
All right, I'll give you this one. Hello, 4 bedrooms. The benefit here is space for the whole family, or you know, room to room for your family to grow. If you're a young family looking to have more children, this is the benefit. You know what? You're right. If we had more kids, there's more space for everybody. Room to grow. So there's the benefit. What about a open fireplace?
Oh, sorry about that before. I did have a choking fit.
That's all right.
An open fireplace. I mean, I guess that's kind of like a natural. Perhaps it's a sense of warmth. Perhaps
Oh
it's
yeah, homely.
like that kind of. Yeah, that's exactly right. That homely feeling and that sense of warmth and
That's what they do.
um,
That's it.
I don't know. Yeah.
You got it. You've got it. Absolute. Yep, that's it. Uh, Outdoor entertainment or outdoor. Sorry, mentioned the word entertainment, but really like a swimming pool or al fresco eatery area, which is like an outdoor eating area. These ones they generally
Mm.
say entertain, be the be get all of your friends jealous or entertain all of your friends on your wonderful outdoor. That's the emotional benefit. What they're saying is, yeah, you've got a swimming pool. It's 3 meters deep and 2.5 meters wide. Nobody cares about how wide and deep it is. What they're aware of and what they're trying to sell you on is the be the envy of all your friends. You're going to have the coolest swimming pool and outdoor entertainment area on this in the area. And that's what
Mm.
sells here. So anyway, so this is part of our wider conversation on um, wants versus needs and motivations for people to buy. I guess a couple of things in and around this. You've got to really understand your product. You've got to know why people are buying your product and what it does for people. Is your product something that is just a pure need product? Is there some sort of emotional connection? If so, how do you actually make that emotional connection? Um,
Mm.
so a couple of questions that you can consider is, well, listen to your customer. So if you're trying to work out the customer's wants or needs or what their motivations are to buy, just have a listen to things that they might say. If they say, I must have this, I need to have this, or I can't go without, it might be that they're referring to a need. If they say, it would be lovely if I wish I could, it would be nice if I could, they might be referring to more of their emotional needs. It's a very hard question to answer just straight up like that. What I'd like to do is, that part of the question is motivations to buy. What I actually like to
Mm.
talk through students is what we call our consumer purchase decision process. And what that is it's a 5-step process. It's widely known that is what effectively all customers, consumers, go through this process where we're all the same. We all go through the same process. So something that I'd like to just quickly talk about, if that's okay. Okay, I'm just going to pull up a little picture that I've got. Let me know if you can see this.
I'm seeing it now. Perfect.
Okay, great. So there's 5 stages here in what we call our 5-step process for the consumer purchase decision process. So the first process is what we call a need recognition or problem awareness. I'm just going to read, I've got some notes here, I'm just going to read from the notes here. So the customer decision or consumer decision process begins with need identification. Whether we act to resolve a particular problem depends upon 2 factors: the magnitude of the discrepancy between what we have and what we need, the importance of the problem. This involves the concept of consumer motivation, which is the internal drive consumers experience to fill conscious and unconscious wants and needs. Once the problem is recognized, it must be defined in a way. Okay, that's a lot of words. A need recognition is that first sign of, oh, I've got a problem or I've got a need for something. Let's
Mm.
put this into a context. If I'm before I buy dinner, what is my need recognition? What happens? What is the physiological thing that happens that puts me on the path for purchasing food?
I get hungry.
Beautiful. Well said. That's my need recognition. I get this thing in my stomach that goes. Give me a need recognition for purchasing a holiday.
Oh, a need recognition for purchase, like maybe like the need for a break or the need for some
Perfect.
time out or some kind of relaxing
Absolutely.
kind of stress-free type of thing,
You know,
I
you
guess.
might
So that'd
watch.
be,
Yeah,
yeah.
what you're saying is spot on. You're tired. You're like, I need a break. You're looking at other people who look relaxed. You're like, I really need to be relaxed like that guy. Or, and it happens a lot, you see a TV advertisement and you go, and the marketers know this, we can actually create a need, and that's what they actually try and do a lot of the time. They create this problem. They actually make a
Mm.
problem and say, hey, we've got a solution for you. They didn't even know you had a problem until they told you about it. That's actually a need recognition mark. Good marketers will actually do that. The next step is what we call information search, and I'm actually not going to read these notes because they're pretty poor. I think I'll just talk through it. Information search is really just about looking and gathering information. So you might go online, you might have a look, and you might see how much does it cost to go on this holiday. If you're hungry, you might go on to menu log and have a look and see who's delivering tonight, food, or you might um, things like that. So you start what we just call your information search. You've already recognized a problem. You might be searching. You also might ask friends and family. You might recognize you have this problem, and you might say to your partner or your friend, hey, are you hungry? Have you thought about dinner tonight? That's actually, you're doing the information search at that point. You're actually contacting other people and you're speaking. The next thing that happens in this purchase process, so this is the process that we all go through when we buy anything. It's what we call the evaluation of alternatives. It's where we actually just weigh up different items. Now, you might weigh up something on the basis of price. Price might be the most important factor for you. Quality might be an important factor for you. If you're a vegetarian or a vegan, some of the factors are different because you won't just eat anything. There are things that you can't eat. So there are other factors that come into play. If you're weighing up, if you're buying a new laptop, the evaluation of alternatives is actually where you actually, and you may not actually do this on a piece of paper, you might not even do this on a conscious level, but subconsciously what happens is you weigh up all of the different options and you make an evaluation. And by that, so you're looking at 5 different laptops. How do you evaluate them? Well, you actually look at some of the attributes. You say, well, this one's got an 18-inch screen, this one's got a 16-inch screen. This one's $600, that one's $500. This one has really nice keyboard, this one actually doesn't. This one's green, which I don't really like the color green. This one's pink, which I think is wonderful for a laptop. So this is actually happening on a very subconscious level, and what we're doing subconsciously is we're putting different amounts of weights. So we're saying, you know what, the most important thing for me here is actually the price. Secondary after price is the screen size. Third is the amount of hard drive space. So the fact that it's green is irrelevant. That's what we call the evaluation of alternatives. Purchase, well, that's actually when we actually pull our money out and actually make the purchase. Um, that's where we've basically formed our intent to buy. What happens at this point is we've got to make it really easy for our customers to pay. They've made their decision, they want to buy. Let's not make them go through 5,000 loops to actually get the item or the product that they're wanting. Let's make it nice and easy. And the fifth one we call post-purchase evaluation. We actually include it as part of the purchase process because we've discovered it actually has an incredible impact on the way that we feel about something. So the feelings and the way we evaluate a product after the sale is what we're talking about. So when we take the box home and it's not anything like what we thought it would be, that what we call purchase dissonance, or that feeling that we get after it, is a big part of that whole scenario. So it's just an important part of sort of understanding the cycle, I guess, that consumers, our customers, might go through. It's an interesting thing. People really like, and this is something that was taught to me at a young age, people like to buy, but nobody likes to be sold to. So that's a really interesting concept as well. If you've ever walked into a clothes store and felt like the salesperson is trying too hard to get the sale, or there's something that feels a bit unauthentic about it, you feel like you've been sold to, you don't know why. It's you're a bit unsure about what's going on,
Yeah.
and so on.
And
Yeah.
it's also interesting. I mean, from that customer service perspective, I guess it really is about, if you know that people like to buy but don't necessarily like to be sold to, it's interesting how your approach to customer service, again, is very much linked to knowing who your customers are and what their needs and their wants are, as you've mentioned, and being able to sell and match what they need and want in terms of that engagement. Because we don't like. I mean, I definitely enjoy the purchasing of items, but yeah, I'm one of those people. I don't like you to sell me something. I like to, I don't like to have what I feel like can sometimes be quite pushy service, or somebody really trying to put the hard sale on me, especially if I'm buying a car.
Mm,
So
mm,
it's interesting. It's about, I guess, and we talk about determining those wants and those needs of the individual, and knowing, who your customer is, and just aiming your customer service delivery at that level as well, and kind of knowing what's right and what might not be right, if that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the best
Yeah,
thing that people can do is ask questions. If you want to
yeah,
get to know your
yeah.
customer a bit better, you've just got to ask them questions. You've got to also understand the journey that they're going through and what benefits they seek in your products. We talked about that people buy benefits, not features. You've got to understand
Mm,
what the benefits are, the irrational or the emotional needs. What are the emotional? What is the why are people using your product? What is the joy they get out of it? What is the feeling they get out of it? What is it that you're trying to actually sell them on?
mm. Yep,
A great
yeah, that's
example
exactly right.
is toothpaste. Have you ever seen a toothpaste commercial that talks about the packaging um, and how many mils of toothpaste are in the tube? Which are the features?
Mm,
Never,
yep,
never. but the benefits are, you know, these gorgeous looking men and women all over the advertisements, and it's sort of, you think, wow, if I use this toothpaste, I'm going to have wonderful breath, and maybe this really attractive lady might go out on a date with me. Um, so they're selling other intangibles there. They're selling those emotional wants and desires back at you.
Mm,
They're trying to tap
mm.
into a subconscious desire that you might have, and then flog their toothpaste. So
Yeah.
yeah, that question is kind
Yeah.
of, it can be dealt with in
Yeah.
a number of ways. Alyssa, sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I definitely agree. It is a bit of a tricky kind of question in terms of what it's kind of requiring. So,
Um,
I mean,
I
yeah,
might just open
it'd
up
be
some of the
interesting.
materials here, and we can just take some students
Yeah.
through it. There is a page here that is called Customers' Underlying Needs. And
Mm,
and as it mentions here, there are certain underlying needs that apply to most of our customers. Being aware of these needs allows you to apply them at the right times. I'd employ students to read through some of these materials. There's some good materials in there, and they will give you some great ideas. There's not a hard and fast short answer on anything. We're open to a range of different
mm,
conversations and ideas that you might have. So do read that one. Uh, there is an interesting part here that says how customers measure service, which actually breaks down. There's like nine different components of how a customer might measure the performance of a given
mm,
brand or retailer or service. So understanding that is a good part. So they actually break it down to the ambience, the staff appearance, and display, the courtesy. So the welcome or the friendliness of staff, recognition, so the ability for being recognised as a regular customer, competence, being the knowledge and information, the skill levels of staff, credibility, the trustworthiness, honesty, warranties, honouring commitments, those sorts of things, access, efficient transactions, convenient opening hours, ability to access them, security, safety on their premises, or protection of personal information confidentially of those communications that you might have. Uh, Depending on what you're buying, that might be a really important factor, depending on what it is you're buying. Responsiveness, the ability for the organization to get back to you quickly, returning calls, following up as promised, and reliability, relation to billing, accuracy, but also, reliability of them doing what they've effectively agreed to. Then it does actually give information here for students on how to clarify and assess some customer needs. Um, and it just talks about some methods there. So I might just get students to have a look at that. It talks about different communication techniques that you might use to determine those needs. So students can really go to this page to really help them answer this question. Although, if you've got some other ideas, we're happy to hear them as well.
mm.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. There's obviously you have like lots of different ideas and lots of different concepts about kind of things around customer service because it is a very much a evolving kind of area, I think, within business and considering the space we're in today as well. So it's interesting to get other people's ideas and concepts and thought processes when it comes to these types of questions.
So
So yeah.
students can contextualize it to their own environment. So if they work somewhere and they say, look, this is how we do it, I'm happy for
Mm,
students to do that. Or if they want to generally answer this question from a perspective of how might you go about it, go to the materials and have a look.
mm,
Either way, yeah, more than happy. At the end
mm,
of the day, we're touching on psychology here because what we're trying to say is, why do people do what they do? If we know the answer to that question, then we'll be the richest people on the planet. Um,
yeah.
Neuroscience is like the new frontier these days in marketing worlds, and what that basically is that marketers these days are starting to, they're basically they're looking at our brain. They're taking scans of our brain. They're using different forms of stimulus. They're using different advertisements. They're watching how our brains magnetically, um, I don't know about magnetically, but how our brains effectively light up and respond to different things, different stimulus, and they're trying to understand our conscious and subconscious brain a lot better and how our brain actually works. And then they're trying to use different techniques to then market things back to us, or find products and services that we're likely to purchase or things like that. So that's kind of like the new frontier. Um,
Mm.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
and That kind of direction that they're heading in terms of identifying that new frontier. I mean, it's very much about we change our ideas and our wants become more, and we're constantly kind of looking for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and it's obviously the marketing kind of concepts that they're using now, which you've just described, there's a need for them there because we do want so much and we do want more, and we are kind of spinning, spinning, spinning. What is the next big thing? What is the next big thing? So there's definitely a need. I think it's smart techniques that are used. Those are definitely
Yeah,
smart techniques. We
absolutely.
don't know what we don't know what we don't know, and then all of a sudden we see something, and all of a sudden it sparks some kind of neurological response, and then we put it on our we want list. We didn't even know we wanted it yesterday, but today we
Correct.
want it because we've been sold it and we've seen it.
It's really funny that this conversation. Actually, there's a great TV show that students might be interested on ABC called the Gruen.
Hmm.
And Gruen, it's actually they have four or five marketing experts that get up and it's actually it's a light-hearted show. It's hosted by Will Anderson, is that his name? Will, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the comedian, Aussie comedian guy.
Yeah,
Will, is it Will Anderson?
yeah, I think it's Will Anderson. Yeah,
And he's a funny guy. Anyway, like they bring experts on, they talk about different ads, and we're talking before about need recognition and problem recognition. A good company, and as you said, you'll see something you didn't even know you needed it or wanted it, all of a sudden you're in the game. That's what we call that problem or need recognition. Good marketers will actually develop a problem for you and then create a wonderful solution. You didn't even know you had this problem. So the one they were talking about last night was Sorbent, and they're actually
yeah.
talking about the different, Kleenex and Sorbent and all the different brands in toilet paper. And Sorbent have brought out this new thing on their product called Gripples. What's a gripple?
Gribble.
What is a gripple, you asked? Well, a gripple is like a
I'm so curious.
this is a really interesting conversation. A gripple is like this little ripple that appears on the toilet paper itself, which is like an elevated ripple, if you like, that effectively grips on to the bits and pieces that it needs to grip onto, therefore
Yeah.
making your whole area as wonderful, clean as possible. You didn't know that the other brands didn't have this gripple technology that now Sorbent do, but Sorbent are talking about gripple, and the way they do it is they have their cute little Sorbent dog that goes and smells everybody's bottom, and it smells somebody's bottom that isn't using the gripple, the new gripple technology from Sorbent. And what they effectively do is tell you, you know what, you may not have realized this, but we've developed this technology to fix this problem. You've got a unclean environment over there, but we've got a new gripple that'll fix that problem. Who knew? Who knew that we had you know what? All this time I've been
Yeah.
walking around
That,
with a very unclean and unhygienic situation there. I didn't even know I needed gripples.
but you really think about it. Like, just if you take a second, you think about toilet paper. You just think, can toilet paper really ever like what technology? I mean, you know what I mean? I'm so shocked that they've got that technology called a gripple. Like, who would
And
have ever even have thought to
and
associate? You know what I mean? I can't even. Wow, that's amazing.
But that's what we're talking about here, because what they've done is they understand that need recognition or that problem recognition is the first stage that people go through before they start their journey of buying something, and they go, you know what? Let's create a problem. We'll solve it for it. They
Yeah,
didn't even know they had this problem.
yeah,
You've got a very
yeah,
unclean situation. The answer is gripples. We have the gripple technology. Come and buy your Sorbent toilet paper and get gripples. Um, it's
yeah,
really quite funny, actually. But
yeah. Wow.
so companies
Well,
do that.
probably 30 years ago, Adam, we didn't need to have a phone attached to our person every day. There wasn't the need to have that, and now the need was created, by, the technology and by all of those organisations like Apple that drive, phones and Nokia and all that. And now it is an absolute, we can't live without these things. We
Absolutely.
didn't know we needed it, and then all of a sudden they introduced it, and then it became we all needed to have it. So I'm assuming that in the
But it's
next,
more that we
you know,
wanted to have it because to be honest with you, the old phones we were able to call and we could do all the things we could do on the old phones. There was more of an emotional connection to those smartphones and the wonderful things that it can do. It was really
yeah,
selling us on those benefits and selling us on those emotional needs rather than those rational needs. But yeah,
Absolutely.
it's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to those questions and we'll just review and just see if
Sure.
we've done a good job in going through those first two questions. Okay, so explain how you can deliver a product that matches your customers' needs. So really the question, and then how do you determine a customer's needs and wants and motivations to buy? So look, go back into the materials. If you want to use your own examples, please do. Question 4, give 2 examples of how you can determine the rational needs, and also a couple of examples of how you can fill their emotional needs.
Mm.
So we haven't kind of talked about that, but I it's it's really about understanding your product and service to the
Yeah.
nth degree. But what I would say is, what are the intangibles? So when think about touch points. We talked about touch points last week. Think about touch points when the customer is interacting with you. How do we make them feel warm and fuzzy? If you can answer that, then you can answer this question. So you can think outside of the product and product. Think about the service component of it, if you like. Alyssa, did you want to add anything to this? Have we confused students on this one, do we think?
No, I think you've given them a really nice concept of the difference between, that rational need and that emotional need, actually. I think that, obviously there's room for ideas and concepts from the students' behalf when they come to answering these types of questions. But I think you've kind of given them a really nice overall picture, I think, with which to draw some nice conclusive answers for them.
Okay, the materials, and we've sort of danced around it a little bit, but the materials do directly answer these questions. I think we've done a good job in just having the conversation today for students anyway, so we might leave that one. Should we have a look at question 2?
Mm.
Would you like to read the second question out on this one?
Oh, let's do question 2. Okay, so it says, what resources do you need to provide to ensure that the quality of customer service is maintained within your organisation?
Yep.
And the second part of that question is, obviously, give an example of a contingency plan you have implemented when resources have not been available. Okay. All right.
Okay, so I would just like to clear something up quickly. There's a bit of a glitch in this question that I find. It's my own I might be wrong, but this is what I feel. A contingency is something that you do prior to, as a premeditated something to do to minimize the effect or minimize the likelihood of something else happening. So the question says, give an example of a contingency that you've implemented when resources have not been available. To me, that's not a contingency because that's a very reactive, not proactive approach. So what it's saying is, what have you done if you couldn't, the resources weren't available? Give me an example that but
Yeah.
look, but that's just a wording of the question issue because students can still come up with examples of contingencies or backup plans. So what we're talking about here is resources. So think about, and there's a good page, I'm going to just try and find the page for students. Yeah, ensure a productive work environment. Go to this page, guys. Establish efficient use of resources. And I'll just read off the page. Having the correct amount of and type of resources available to complement your organization's sales and service strategy is important in meeting customer requirements. So you've got some things in there that you can look at. Manage and maintain the use of equipment. That's kind of obvious. Working conditions. So we've talked about this in previous subjects. How do you create a culture where people want to work and be a part of? So the working conditions, the amount of breaks, the occupational health and safety issues, fair pay, all those working industrial awards. Sorry, that's what I was trying to think of. All of the industrial awards actually help to create an environment which can be more conducive to happy staff members or non-happy staff members. And ultimately, we're trying to create a happy staff environment because that's going to relate and translate out to quality of customer service. So the question is, what resources do you need to provide? Have a look at this page because it goes through a few other things. Going back to the last question, sorry, I just realized that there's some good information here, matching service delivery to customers. So in relation to the last question, there's a couple of great ideas that I've just highlighted there in relation to detecting or identifying needs and wants in your customers, so you can go to that page as well. Sorry, Alyssa, if you want to jump in on this one.
Oh, I just totally got sidetracked, and now I've forgotten what I was going to say because I was just having a look at what you were highlighting there.
Yeah. Well, basically what we're talking about is, what are the things that the business need to provide their staff members so that they can maintain those high levels and standards that we're expecting. So, for example, if you work in an ice cream shop, and you like to serve the customers really efficiently and quickly, and that's a big part of what we do. If the machine breaks down, where that's actually having now an impact on our customer service. So what we're talking about, what are the things, what are the resources, what do you need to provide your staff members so that they can live up to this promise that we've decided upon and agreed upon in our vision. Um,
Yep.
so come up
And
with
I
some
guess as
ideas.
well,
Yep.
yeah, and with the resource question as well, I mean, if you're coming from the perspective of a specific work environment as well, it might be different resources that you might need to also consider. I mean, there are some general types of resources, I guess, which are obviously highlighted in there. But as I said, depending on your workplace as well, you could be using different types of resources that aren't considered within the actual resource material itself, but you can bring your answer, you can address into your response.
You can answer this from rephrasing the question, what is it that my company can do that will make it
Mm.
more likely for me to be friendlier and offer better customer service? What is it that my company can do that will help me to offer the highest level of customer service? If you can answer that question, then you're answering what we're looking for.
Mm.
I'm going to
Cool.
we'll go to the next one. Do you want to read
Yeah.
this one out?
Yeah, list 3 strategies that you could implement to improve the levels of internal customer service within your organisation. Oh, nice one. So 3 strategies that you could implement to improve the levels of internal customer service within your organisation.
Yep.
Now, just a quick, I mean, I guess just a quick clarification there, Adam. The question's asking to improve the levels of internal customer service.
Yes.
So are they referring to specifically your internal customers,
Okay,
like
so
perhaps members, or what are we talking about here when we're defining internal?
we're talking about our staff members.
Okay, beautiful,
So,
lovely.
so I mean, the
Okay.
question is, how, what are the strategies? So it's not about the strategies to improve the experience for our customers, but what are the strategies we can do for our staff members to make sure that they're giving the highest level to our customers? So it's probably not a
Lovely.
perfectly worded question, but it's the strategy in and around our employees that we're asking students to refer to. And there was a page on this one, and I just cannot find
Yeah.
it. I'm just going to have a
And I guess even you highlighted previously as well. I mean, some of the importance of having. I think you were talking about enterprise agreements and having your award structure and your legislation in place as well. When it comes to your team members, I mean, I think that's always good to have that structure in place there, and it builds confidence in your team members to know that you're abiding by all these legislative requirements. They have trust, they have confidence in you, they're going to be safe, they're going to be supported, and that can be just identified and felt just by really having that compliance structure in there. So that was something that you kind of like looked at, and that's what I was thinking in terms of an answer like this.
So before we talked about what resources we need, and then I put the question out, what can my company do which will help me to offer a high level customer service? Same question here, really.
Yeah.
Um, you know, we've talked a lot about culture. There is a page that
Yep.
I wanted to show, employee engagement / discretionary effort. What the statistics show is that employees that are highly engaged are generally happier and more likely to provide higher levels of customer service as well. Um,
Yeah.
the most profitable divisions of a company have employees doing what they do best with people
Mm.
they like, with a strong sense of psychological ownership on the outcomes of their work, which is what's written here. Um,
Mm.
so if you're likely to answer this from the purpose of employee engagement and culture and what makes an employee, as I say, what is it that your company can do which will, and so this is a creative one. I mean, the guys, students can really go to
Get
town on
creative.
this one. Yeah, get a bit creative on this one. So
Yeah.
what makes a workplace more of an enjoyable place to be? What is it? What makes
Yeah.
something more likely for me to deliver
Mm.
high levels of customer service? Now we have the obvious sorts of things. So students might like to talk about setting goals and setting clear expectations, and some of those processes and procedures, if you like, don't mind.
Mm.
However, if guys
Yep.
want to get a little bit creative and talk about what creates a great working culture and environment, which is conducive to a
Mm.
smile and a great vibe and a great energy, which is going to translate into customer service, couldn't be happier.
Absolutely. And this is your time now to, perhaps sometime in previous employment history, you might not have been 100% satisfied with where you were working, or perhaps you felt that you weren't being looked after. Now here is your chance to kind of say, well, this is what I really wanted, or this is what I would have done to look after all of my team members. This is the time that you could put yourself in that role of management and choose and create some wonderful strategies that will help improve that, customer, that team member engagement essentially. So, as Adam said, be creative here. Some great ideas might
Mm,
flourish through this
mm.
through this question. Mm.
And some of them are cheap. There's things you
Yeah.
can do that don't cost much money that make a big difference. People really enjoy their environment, that enjoyment, that energy, that it's going to translate to the feeling that's portrayed down the line, whether on the phone or whether face to face, whatever it might be. So those are great, but if you also want to get a bit technical and talk about some of the policies/procedures, things like that, no
Mm.
dramas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's roll this
Lovely.
along. Let's have a look at the next question. So we're now up to the next learning activity: monitor, adjust, and review customer service. We might just fly through some of these ones, um, some of these questions. How do you recognize employees that demonstrate consistent high standards when delivering customer experience strategy? So we know the importance of having a vision. We know the importance of customer service. This question is now saying, right, how are you going to recognize employees that are doing the things that we're really wanting them to do?
Mm. Yep. And again, that's really important. I mean, I think, if we look back at that last question about kind of having strategies to really encourage and generate internal customer service, now we're looking at that kind of recognition process. I mean,
Mm,
if your team members are doing and delivering, and enhancing that customer experience, I mean, what are some ideal ways to be able to recognize that? And, recognition of that kind of behavior and that kind of delivery, I think, is very, very important from an employee perspective.
absolutely. We talked, was it last week or maybe last subject? We talked about the need to provide feedback to create high performing teams. So it must have been in the concept of teams. And we
Yes, we
talked
did.
about the
Yeah.
varieties of feedback. You've got the constructive feedback, or which is effectively when you need to change somebody's behavior. But then you've got also that feedback, which is that acknowledging style of feedback. So you know what, doing a great job. So don't need to change anything, just doing a good job. And I think it's incumbent upon us as leaders that when we're giving somebody corrective feedback or critical feedback, but corrective, constructive. If I say, Alyssa,
Mm.
love the way that you do webinars. Just one thing I'd love you to do differently moving forward next time. If you now demonstrate those ideas that I'm talking about that I'd like you to do, I need to acknowledge that you're doing those things. Otherwise, guess what? You're going to feel pretty ratty about the whole thing. You're going to think, you know what, Adam just picks on me. He looks for things. He picks on me. But you know what? If I'm genuine about my desire for you to do whatever it is I'm wanting you to change or do, if I see you doing those
Mm.
correct things, well, if I was really genuine, then I would really be appreciative that I'm recognizing, I'm acknowledging that you've made those changes. So recognition, which is the word that you used, is spot on. I mean, that's the everything in this situation. It's the everything for feedback. But
Mm.
we've got to, if we're asking people to behave in a certain way, we must acknowledge when they're living up to the standards. So there's ways to do that. You can give them a pat on the back metaphorically. You can what are ways that you can help to do that? Um,
Yeah, look, I mean, I think, every time I think about kind of recognition programs or the processes of a recognition program, I mean, I think it really depends on who the person is that's standing in front of you and knowing enough about them to know what motivates them. So if public recognition is something that they like, so say, for example, during a meeting, you recognize your team member publicly in front of the team and acknowledge them for doing a great job, then that could be a very effective form of recognition. But if you've got an individual in the team that doesn't really enjoy that public recognition, it's important to recognise them the way that they need to be recognised, which might be a little letter or something, or a thank you letter from the CEO,
yeah,
or perhaps like a little gift card or something like that,
movie
something like
tickets.
that.
Yes,
A
send me.
movie ticket, yeah, a
Send
movie
me to the
ticket.
movies, please.
That's it. Yeah.
No,
So
but
it's
what you're
it's
saying is really good. Actually, what you said there about not maybe putting somebody in front of everybody who might not be that outgoing type, might not feel comfortable being made having all the attention on them in a team meeting, being really clever about it. But you know what? Look, it's kind of funny because even those that don't like the spotlight, you can still do it quickly and they can still get that little buzz and you can still
Mm.
take that pressure off them that they're not under the spotlight. Just a really quick mention. Alyssa, you've just done an amazing job. I think everybody should have a round of applause for Alyssa. Well done. Great job. Now, let's
Yep,
move on to the next thing. So, not keeping the focus
exactly.
on you, Alyssa. I'm not making you feel uncomfortable. But at the same time, yeah, you should know that I'm
Mm.
going to say in front of all of your colleagues what a wonderful job I think you're doing. And you know what? The endorphins that somebody can get released in their system from something like that is worth more than money and better than movie tickets.
Mm.
You know, it's
Yep,
actually something
yep.
we'll talk about a little bit in the next subject, how to actually, in the idea of leadership, rewarding somebody um, is really,
Mm.
really important. Uh, Monetary rewards are actually less important than the
Mm.
verbal reward system. So, but we'll come to that in a bit. I'll talk about that in a bit. But anyway, so students can probably go forth and answer this question, no dramas whatsoever. Let's have a look at
Definitely.
question two, Alyssa.
Mhm.
So, explain why social media and the internet have impacted on the need for an organisation to provide effective service recovery programs. Love my little
Mm.
Google definitions, and here's another one for you. Service recovery
Okay.
is the action a service provider takes in response to a service failure. So, what we're talking
Right.
about is when we've got issues, service recovery is what a company does in response to that issue. And the question is actually directly relating to social media, which Alyssa, I'll get you to talk about social media and how that might have changed the dynamic in a
Mm.
bit. But students, please have a look at the,
Yep.
the resource material. There's so much stuff here. So policies for resolving customer complaints. There's information there on steps to a service recovery, how to actually go about it. You know what you should do when you're getting basically a complaint from a customer. This is what we're talking about here.
Mm.
So understand that we've got things like customer complaint records where we can capture that data. What I would like to tell students in this is that every complaint or every piece of feedback you get from your customers is a gift. It's a blessing. Listen to what they have to say. They're giving you, they're the ones paying for your holiday in the end of the year and Christmas. Listen to them. Listen to them. Actually, it's the first step in your service recovery. Listen to it. Uh, so there's some really good information there that talks about service recovery so that students can get an understanding on how you go about that and uh, some of the information there. There's more pages there on how to, yeah, so just, why it happens, why we get issues, the complaints management process, dealing with angry or complaining customers. Again, it's sort of similar information. There's just a couple of double ups there. There was something else that I saw, which was grouse. Loved it. Oh, yeah, the last principle. I like this one. The last principle, I like things that are easy to remember. My brain isn't always super switched on, Alyssa, so I like, things that my simple brain can handle. The last principle,
Mm.
stands, is an acronym. It stands for listen, advise, solve, and thank. I like
Mm.
that last one. It's important. Um, Actually, I used to have one in an old workplace called AIR. AIR stood for
Oh, yeah.
acknowledge. Oh, I can't remember what the I stood for. Ah, acknowledge, inform, and resell. So it was in the idea of handling complaints. The first, and they say here, listen and then advise. The way that I was taught is that you acknowledge. So if Alyssa, you go, Adam, I bought this hamburger from your hamburger store today, and
Mm.
I took it home, and it tasted like uh, uh, chocolate chip cookie, which is a bit weird for me. Um, what I would say is, and here it says listen, so okay, okay, yep, I'm looking at you, I'm maintaining eye, I'm nodding my head, okay, yep, I'm doing all those things you want to do, and you listen. Then I'm advising, right, okay, so Alyssa, you actually ordered a chocolate cookie, you didn't order a hamburger. That's probably that actually kind of like the one that I was taught back in the day, which started off with acknowledge. So if
Mm.
somebody's complaining, customers want to be heard. Human beings, we all want to be heard. If
Mm.
sometimes it's not about finding a solution straight away. Sometimes it's just acknowledging how somebody feels. That's a customer just wants to be understood. So acknowledge is an important one here. So if you say, Adam, I ordered this hamburger and it tasted like a chocolate chip cookie, it's really important for me to make sure that I'm hearing you properly. So to acknowledge you properly, and this is we talk about this in what we talk about in reflective listening techniques and how to listen effectively, is I acknowledge what you say by saying, okay, so what you're saying is that you're here at 3 o'clock this afternoon, you ordered a hamburger, took it home, and when you took it home and I opened it, it looked like a hamburger, tasted like a cookie. Is that correct? And you say yes, and you're instantly going to get that yes because the customers are all feeling like, right, you're hearing what I'm saying. Good. Now we're together. Now you know how I feel, and that's such a big thing. So customers often want to, and then you can go on the process of solving, advising, and then thanking them. Always thank somebody at the end. So but I do like this one. So listen, hear them out, advise. So I understand that you've experienced this. Maybe this is why, and then go and solve their problem. So advise. I
Mm,
don't like the word advise, but I think what it's sort of saying is more like do a bit more investigation. So you know, find out a bit more information, see what you can elaborate on, and then you look to solve the problem.
mm.
Anyway, so there's heaps
And
of
I think,
sorry,
I,
go for it.
yeah, I think that the if you can all, having something that's quite catchy and easy to understand, because dealing with complaints effectively can be quite you know challenging depending on who's actually standing in front of you doing the complaining. So I think the more businesses simplify their kind of complaint handling process, so things like Last and things like Air, anything that's really simple like that is going to be embraced by your team members as well, because you want to empower them to be able to deal with complaints effectively, and it can be challenging, so you don't want to overwhelm them with a process that can be overwhelming. So having
Yeah.
these nice principles here, I think they're going to be, you're already helping support your team and empowering your team by having these simplistic ideas and easy to use kind of tools.
So there's plenty of information for students there, Alyssa, on service recovery programs,
Lovely.
how to implement
Lovely.
them. This question is explain why social media have
Yeah.
impacted.
Ooh.
Why is social media made it a thing now? Why do we really have to be good with this whole idea of service recovery? What is it? How does it
Oh,
relate to customer service? And what's
oh.
what's the
Well, like so say for example, I might be a Facebook user. Okay, the amount of times and the power I believe that customers have now in expressing themselves very, very freely about customer service experiences. I mean, it probably at least once a week I might see a complaint that somebody has left on perhaps an organisation's Facebook, and it could be something as simple as I get HelloFresh delivered, so it's that thing where they send all your food to you, and you get your recipes, and you really just literally have to cook it. So it's very easy, The amount of times that they've obviously got a Facebook page
mm,
and you like the Facebook page, but the amount of times that people have made complaints, they don't call directly through to the customer service hotline. They'll go straight to social media and they'll write their complaint on social media. So if there's 25,000 people that have liked HelloFresh page, 25,000 people will see that customer complaint.
yep.
So I think the importance of having effective service recovery programs is you need to be on top of any potential complaint, and you need to deal with it really, really quickly, because these days it doesn't just spread to 7 people, it spreads to 70,000 people. So
The
I believe that, yeah,
the interesting thing
this
is
is
that it can kill a company because 25,000 people, 100,000, all the customers are seeing this complaint. It's like, oh my God, that's the worst case
yeah,
scenario. As I said earlier, every complaint is a gift. Think about it
yeah.
as a gift because it gives you an opportunity to make a difference. There's something called the service recovery paradox. And the service recovery paradox is a situation where a customer thinks more highly of a company after it has corrected a problem with their service compared to how he or she would have if the service failure had never happened. The interesting thing
Mm,
here is this opportunity actually provides an opportunity. This
Mm,
complaint provides a company an opportunity to improve the way that people
mm,
conceive this organization. I mean, we are all human beings. We all appreciate that not everybody is perfect, and I'm not going to expect that everybody's perfect. But Alyssa, if you promise something and it doesn't deliver, and then I speak to you about it, the way that you handle that is the way that I value you or conceive you. I'm not,
mm,
I know it's a bit silly, but I was taught as a young boy from my father, it's really not always what happens in the war, but it's what happens. It's
oh,
how it's dealt with afterwards is sort of. I guess I haven't really explained that well, but I
yeah,
think what he was saying is, Adam, we're all emotional people. We're emotional beings.
yeah,
Sometimes we act on emotion. It's how you handle that afterwards, and the same goes here. It's not everybody has to be perfect. Sometimes the waitress
mm,
might come out and bring out the order and forget the additional chips or the salad, or there's a little mistake. It's not a big deal.
mm,
It's how
yeah,
that mistake is rectified is you go, wow, you know what? They went to the every extent to make sure that I was okay. They apologized unrefutably. They brought out the meal. They brought out a free dessert and said, we're really, really sorry. We value you.
mm,
And all I'm thinking about is how wonderful they treated me. Instead of thinking
mhm,
about the mistake. So the mistake that's the paradox. The mistake is an opportunity to get the customer to think even more highly about you than they would have if that mistake never happened. So that's what I mean by
yeah,
an opportunity. Alyssa, we're
yeah,
going
yeah.
probably a little bit over time here, so I might just rip through some of these ones if that's
Okay,
okay.
sure. Yeah.
So there's a
All
question
right,
here.
I'll read.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I'll read question three. So list three leadership traits that you demonstrate that enable you to drive the customer experience in your business. Okay.
There's a page here I'm going to point customers, students to. Traits of effective sales and service leaders. Beautiful.
Oh,
Oh, we
what
love
is
those
that?
traits. Love those traits. Okay. You know what? We're going to delve into the whole idea of leadership in its own beauty in our next subject, and when we talk about it throughout the course, I'm happy for students to go into that page and answer that question in that way. Question four.
Mhm. Yeah. So list three policies and procedures linked to the customer experience, communicated to all employees to ensure employees take responsibility for meeting customer requirements. So three policies and procedures linked to the customer experience.
So I would just reword this. What are the things that you can do to help your employees take responsibility for customer service and make sure that they're committed to customer service? It's a bit similar to
Mm,
the ones that we've had in the previous set that talked about, what are the resources and what are the intangible things you can do to make a great culture to um, but here we're talking
mm,
about what are the things that you can do, I guess, policies or procedures, break that down. Just what is it the
yeah.
things, yeah, what is it,
Yeah,
what,
and just to branch onto that as well, my background is in five-star hotels, and five-star hotels we have standards for everything.
okay,
So
perfect.
there is a standard on how we make our beds. There is a standard on how we address a customer.
Yep,
There is a standard on all of those things, and all of those standards are actually written into a job description
okay,
and into into a staff handbook and a checklist as well, just to make sure that employees know exactly what they need to do in terms of
perfect.
meeting those requirements. So
You've
there's an
just you've
example.
just given students one of the best three that you could possibly pick. So that was awesome, really great. Yeah, if you can't think of just like the policy or the set of standards, what Alyssa's talking about, think about procedures. So the things that you do. What are so
Mm,
policies and procedures sounds very formal. If you can think of another formal one, like Alyssa, your one was great. But if you can think of others, if you can't, then think about just what are the things that the company can do to help me, to be a little bit more accountable for, customer service and taking care of customers. So, um, one of the words might be hidden in this question. Let's go to question five. Think of a time when you've
sure.
coached or mentored an employee to improve their ability to provide outstanding customer experience. So there's a little hint in this question for question four. List three steps you covered to help them reach their desired outcome. I don't know if there's a whole lot in the resource material about this one. I guess it's getting students to reflect on a situation when they've, assisted somebody else. I'm happy for students to do some research and look at, some effective coaching techniques. So if you want to do a bit of a Google search on coaching and effective coaching, um, Give me a couple of points on effective coaching. Give me examples of how you can effectively coach somebody, um, and that's it. I mean, I'm happy with that. Alyssa?
Yeah, just a nice personal experience there, I think. I mean, if you can think of a time, and if not, as you said, just maybe some steps on the whole coaching or mentoring process, that does lead to that outstanding customer experience.
Do we want to give any ideas on great coaching ideas at all, or are we happy for students to jump out there and do a bit of research?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think an example that I could probably think of is, I guess, from my background in terms of hotels is there's a lot of coaching and mentoring when younger people first come into the industry. Perhaps they don't have the not so much the customer service skills, but I guess the say for example something like the proper ways to greet a customer, or the best way to communicate through their body language effectively. Even something like grooming as well. I mean, grooming. I noticed a couple of slides ago that you'd mentioned something about that presentation in terms of there was some little thing there, but something like in the past I've had issues with team members that perhaps haven't met grooming standards, and not having met that grooming standard has actually put a block in terms of their ability to provide and enhance that customer experience. So for us working in hotels, that aesthetic display of
So
really represented the hotel. So it was really important that they actually, that was a big part of our customer
but
service.
the question that we have here, though, for you, let's just say, okay, you've got an example there, but what did you do to effectively help
Mm.
coach this person? What was the? Give me an idea of a
Yeah,
technique or a skill
sure.
or some sort of coaching,
Yeah.
effective coaching
Yeah,
skill
so
technique. Yep.
yeah, we would do in a situation like that, obviously not to single the person out specifically, or if there was a continued issue. I mean, we would offer things like supporting, them through a training session, perhaps reviewing standards, reviewing policies with them, getting them to, I guess, understand, the reasoning behind why we do things, but just really reiterating
That
and
last one's
readdressing
yep.
and training and coaching, training, just retraining sometimes. Sometimes people get a little bit complacent, looking at even our own
Yeah.
standards as well. I mean, was there an issue with not having enough uniforms? I mean, was it a process that we missed? Did we have to review our own processes in terms of helping them achieve a better outcome by
Mm,
being able to have access to
mm,
uniforms? I mean,
mm.
so that's just a couple of things I can think of off the top of my head.
One thing I always say with coaching, monologue versus dialogue.
Mm.
Monologue is me talking and you listening. Dialogue is me asking questions and getting more information. You'll want to always engage in dialogue when you're coaching and not monologue. So instead of coming to that situation going, right, okay, so these are all the things you're doing wrong, and this is what you need to do better. Um, Nobody knows themselves better than that person. I.e., if I'm going to coach you, Alyssa, who am I to know how to improve you better than you would know yourself? Who am I to be able to tell you things about you that really you know better than anybody else? My an effective coach, by asking the right questions of you and getting you to open up and talk, and getting you to explore some things, and why do you think that might be, or why do you think you've been feeling in that particular way, or what could make this a better experience, or how can I help you a little bit more to do all of those sorts of things. You might find that all of a sudden you're having a completely different conversation to what you even expected. The issues that might actually be underlying or root cause issues may not be the root cause or underlying issues that you suspected. And, so really, listening and asking questions are some of the most important couple of things in coaching, in my opinion. But yeah, happy
Lovely.
happy for students if they've got a great example, great. If not, just do a bit of research on
Sure.
coaching, and just give us a couple of great ideas or techniques that you can engage in. Um,
Mm.
yeah. Last question.
Perfect.
List methods of
Yeah.
gaining customer feedback. Now, I think, did I
Oh, look,
customer
customer feedback.
feedback? There's a whole little section there. Developing a continuous improvement strategies, information there. Um, ooh, where did it go? I think I had something here. Hmm. Hmm. But in any case, there's a number of methods that you can actually gather information about customers. So how do you receive feedback in your organization, or how does any organization receive feedback? There is a video here. So if you click on that image, it should
Oh,
open up this video. Let's see if it does. Here we go. Nice and slow.
Customer feedback is vital when you are looking to.
oh,
All right, we love that guy. He's really smooth. Anyway, go and check it out. There it is. Is there anything else you'd like to add on this one?
no, I really want to go back and check out that really smooth guy.
He's a really nice guy. Actually, I've never met him before. I'll be
Really
honest with you.
Yeah, no, that's good.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
no, the feedback thing is definitely a nice way. I mean, obviously, just to sum up that as well, kind of finishing with that question there is obviously, that last point where you are gathering that customer feedback, and it can be done so many different ways. Yeah, I mean, if you do something different that might be on the resources or to the resources, please feel free to make sure you pop it into your answer.
sounds good. So just ways to gather information is really what we're asking when we say methods. So just 3 ways. You don't have to explain them, just list them. List 3 ways that you can gather information or feedback about your product or service from your customers, and that's all we're after.
Yep, perfect.
Thanks for joining us in this session. That basically takes us to the end of the learning activities for Manage Quality Customer Service. Join us for the next session, which will be Resource Support 3 for this double unit, which will take you through the next 2 learning activities, which looks at Managed Sales and Service Delivery. It's much the same. We're following on from the same sort of theme, so it's all kind of put together for that reason, because it all relates to each other nicely. So join us for the next session where we talk about establish and respond to customer requirements and monitor, maintain, and improve sales and service delivery. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Enjoyed it yet again.
I'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thanks everybody for tuning in. See you next time.